Today we are going to be attempting some landscape photography, but we're going to be doing it old school and shooting onto medium format film. Now I'll say attempt here with emphasis because I'm not too experienced with film photography, but as I'm over here on dad taxi duties and my Fujifilm is having a few technical issues at the moment, I thought I'd bring out my film camera again and have another attempt at film photography. I've had a quick Google of the local area here on the Norfolk Broads and tried to find a few locations that I can visit in this video. And the first one I'm at here is St Benet's Abbey, I think it's pronounced, which is just outside Great Yarmouth. I'm really surprised how busy the waterway at the side of me here is. I'm not that experienced, I must say, with the Norfolk Broads, and I don't really know this area that well, but we are at the height of the summer holidays at the moment, but I just can't get over how many watercrafts are passing by and passing each other on this small stretch of water. It's certainly a lot busier than the local roads. Check out this listening bench. That music you're hearing at the moment is not background music, it's actually coming out of this bench. How cool is that? So just wandering around this area here trying to find a composition. The camera I'm going to be using today is this one, which I've vlogged about before, but it was on my old channel so I lost the video. This is a Yashica A medium format camera. It shoots in the square format and I think it was built in the 1950s, so a very old camera. It's very basic, everything is manual on here and I haven't even got a light meter. So hopefully I'm going to be able to walk away with some exposures. If I walk away with 1 or 2 exposures from this roll of 10, I'll be happy because I'm still very much learning when it comes to film. The film I'm using today is, let me just dig it out, is Ilford's HP5 Plus. This is a 400 ISO film, which I believe is very tolerant when it comes to dynamic range, so hopefully I won't blow out the sky and we'll get some detail in the final results. For a composition, I'm thinking this is probably the best bet. I didn't really want to include the bench as it's fairly modern, but when you're looking at the square format, I'm trying to compose in a square format orientation. I think this works really well. We've got the wall going in on the right hand side here, the bench on the left, and the cross positioned nicely just in the background but central in the frame. Hopefully it'll work. So this video is not going to plan, to say the least. Just after that last bit to video at the Abbey there, a number of cows turned up and said hello. Then lots and lots of people just kept turning up and walking through that composition I had set up. So eventually I decided just to wait until people were in the right place to try and get a different composition and composed with the people in the shot. And while I was doing that, I managed to waste a frame. Rather than winding onto the first frame, I actually went past the first frame and ended up shooting on number 2 on the film. So I'm already 2 shots down. I've moved on now to a different location again, which I thought would hopefully be quiet, but it turns out there's a family event going off here. But hopefully the shot I've got in mind for here shouldn't be too busy. Well, the area that this shot is in shouldn't be too busy anyway. So I've just set the camera up behind me for this next composition. It's this really interesting looking water pump. I'll just bring you over here and show you the info board. Just get down here. And as we can see, this is Boardman's mill, which was built in 1897 to drain the adjacent marshes. It is a wooden skeleton type, as you can clearly see. I actually thought it was in disrepair, but it was actually built like this as an alternative to the brick tower mills. Originally fitted with a scoop wheel, this was later replaced with a turbine pump. A really interesting looking structure, and if I wanted to I could easily climb up this ladder and have a closer look at the top. I don't think I will do today though. I'm hopeful of a high contrast result here. I'm not too sure what the result's going to look like when it's processed, but I'm hopeful of a high contrast one nonetheless, with the light just hitting the white the sails and the top of the windmill here. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to wait a few minutes for this cloud just to blow by, so I've got a much tidier background for the wind pump. The settings I'm using for these images are coming off a light meter app that I'm using on my phone, and for this shot I'm going to be looking at f8 and set the shutter speed to 100. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to cock the shutter so we are primed and ready to go for when this cloud shifts out of the way. So this one's potentially going to be quite awkward as it's quite a busy area, 3 mooring points here. But what I'm trying to do is photograph this wind pump that's over the water from me here, but try to get a bit more creative with the composition here. In the bottom corner of my composition, I've got this boat just creeping in at the side. I'm going to wait for a boat to come down the Broad and hopefully line up, then lead off to the wind pump at the background. I'll get the name right before the end of this video. My focus point is going to be on the boat in the middle. I think that's probably going to work best for this situation. Fingers crossed this one comes out. This is the amazing village of Thurne, and this is a very aptly named Thurne drainage wind pump. And on this composition I'm going to try and simplify things a little bit more, because I'm very aware that my last few frames that I took at the last location may come across as looking a little bit busy. So being mindful of that, I'm trying to go back to basics with this next shot. I've got the wind pump even centered in my composition, but the other elements around it I think allow it to be centered for this. I've put this path that's leading at the side here on the edge of the frame. There's got a bit of a breeze at the moment. The weeds are being sort of pushed over towards the wind pump, and I think this should work quite well. For my final location, I've just travelled for around 45 minutes across the Norfolk Broads to use up my final frames, but sadly now I've arrived there, it turns out that there's no parking that's very close to the wind pump that I wanted to photograph for my final image, and basically I'm running out of time today, so I've decided to stop by this church instead to use up the last few frames of the film that I've got in here. Fingers crossed when I send this off to be developed, I will get some results and at least get 1 or 2 keepers from the day. But it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I've really enjoyed my day out today, and I've just really enjoyed the process and the tactile nature that this camera gives me. It's a very simple camera this, but I've just enjoyed setting up the compositions and especially looking through the viewfinder. It's a very unique experience setting up a composition with this camera.